All right, fantastic. All right, well, hello and ni hao, everyone, and welcome to this month's Chinese Zoom cooking hangout. So this one is just me playing background music. So I don't know if you can hear, but I'm trying to be sneaky and play a little Chinese instrumental music in the back. So today I am coming to you from my Baba and Mama's home in Georgia, where we will be cooking three dumpling recipes, one of which is my mama's vegan recipe. So I personally will be taking us through all three. I know some of you are just going to be doing one, or maybe some of you are just here to hang out, and that's totally fine. So just take from this tutorial what you need. And over here, I have my raccoon helping to facilitate. He's also eating, so you'll probably see his chopsticks coming in. All right, so today we will be doing my mama's vegan dumpling recipe, which mostly involves mushrooms and cabbage. And then we are going to be doing made with Laos, mushroom, pork, and cabbage steamed dumplings as well. And then the third thing we're going to do is, sorry, that was box of lice. And the third thing we're going to do is made with Laos pot stickers featuring cabbage and chicken. So what I will usually do at the beginning of each recipe is just make sure that I have all of my ingredients in place. So that's what I'm going to take us through. Can you hand me my iPad, please? Okay. So for the recipe Google Doc that I emailed out, each of the recipes makes about 45 dumplings, which means that each of the recipes that I will be, why is it not filming? Oh, okay. Is my table frozen for anyone else?
No, it's just lagging. You see your shoulders frozen in it.
Yeah, let me see if I can figure something out. Okay.
Is it on the Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I'll turn this off. Can people let me know in the chat if my table video is lagging at all?
It's back.
Okay, I might, okay, let me stop my video here and see if that helps.
No, it's frozen.
Okay, all right, it seems like it's working fine for everyone else, so I will just continue. So for our three recipes, if you're going to be making all three at the same time, so you're going to need 3 packs of pre-made dumpling wrappers. So you also have the option of making your own. We're not choosing to do that in this particular class because that's going to add at least another 30 minutes to our cooking time together. And I want to be mindful of everyone's time. But I will be linking a how to make your own wrapper recipe in the replay as well.
It's fine here.
Okay, so the wrappers that I've chosen are already vegan. So you'll see that here it only has wheat flour, water, cornstarch, salt, and sodium. And so most of your traditional dumpling or pot sticker wrappers are already going to be vegetarian/vegan. But of course, sometimes they can be produced in facilities that also work with eggs. So if you want to be extra careful, you can make your own. So we have our dumpling stuff. And so I'm going to take us through a walkthrough of each of the recipes and the ingredients we'll need. So we'll start with Mama's vegan dumplings. And so we already have our wrappers, and just make sure that you also have about 5 of these dried shiitake mushrooms. And we are actually going to be wanting to pre-soak these. So you'll see here, I actually have a bunch of extra mushrooms, and that's because the Wax of Life recipe, which I'll be walking over next, also requires them. So if we're working with dried mushrooms, we want to pre-soak these. And so usually we would pre-soak them for between 1 to 2 hours. So we're just going to go ahead and do that first so we don't forget. So we have these right in a bowl. Bless you, John. And I have some hot water over here that I'm just gonna pour in. And so it's not super hot, Mom. And so like in each recipe, it calls for about a cup of hot water to soak. So we're gonna put about 2 cups in, but basically you just want your mushrooms to be submerged. The mushrooms are already starting to color up. Super pretty. Okay. So we're just gonna set them here and let them chill. All right, so we have our mushrooms. Okay, my mom's like, don't, my parents are also here in the background. She's like, don't put the hot water straight onto the table. So she gave me a little plate. All right, so we have our mushrooms, and then next we want to make sure that we have about a handful of dried vermicelli. And so I know Leslie had messaged a couple days ago and was like, you know, do we use wheat or rice vermicelli? So ideally we would be using rice vermicelli, and we'll be breaking this into bits and frying them. But let's just move through our ingredient run through first. So after your vermicelli, we're going to want to have about half a pound of cabbage minced, and we'll do that together. And for reference, all 3 of our recipes today are using cabbage. So actually we just got one giant head of Napa cabbage. And so over there is 1/2, which is about an entire pound. And then the second half I've divided into 2 bits. So 0.5 pounds for each of the vegan and walks of life cabbage. All right. So that's our cabbage. And then we, in addition to that, for our vegan filling, we're gonna want half a box of firm tofu, which we'll be dicing up. We are going to want 2 scallions, which we'll be slicing up thinly. And then, yep, that's it. So that's it for our filling. And for our flavoring, we are going to be using some salt. So make sure you have your salt handy. Some hoisin sauce. So this is Cantonese for haisien, or seafood flavored sauce, which is funny because there's absolutely no fish product in here. Chinese folk seem to like to name, you know, like vegan and vegetarian sauces after fish. Oh, did you? I mean,
Which one?
that needs to be muted.
This one?
No, this one.
Wait, which one? No,
Linda,
Guys, do you have audio? Oh, okay, great. It's back. Oh, hello, Asia. Glad to see you here. We have also been joined by Howl, my cat, who is squirrel watching as we are making dumplings. All right, so for our walks of life, we are also going to be using cabbage, so the other 0.5 pounds. And for those of you at home, if you want to get started on your ingredient prep, right, like mincing stuff in advance, go ahead and start. So this is just for the replay folks to know that, like, you know, they have their ingredients ready. So we're going to have 0.5 pounds of cabbage, which we're going to mince later. We're going to have 0.5 or half a pound of pork, which we'll be making. So for ease of access, I've gone ahead and gotten pre-ground pork. If you're making this from scratch and you're quite particular, you can also choose to chop up your pork yourself, which might make the texture a little chewier. But I tend to feel like ground pork is the trade-off of convenience and taste works in my favor. And then after the pork, we are going to want about half a tablespoon's worth of minced ginger. So about this much, we'll mince together. And then just the sauces and flavorings. So we're gonna have Shaoxing wine, soy sauce, sesame oil, which my parents also have in this little jar, and sugar. So this says tongue, so sugar. So usually I use white sugar, but my parents have brown sugar, so we'll just go with that today. All right, so that was our walks of life. And finally, for our third recipe, which is going to be the made with Lao celery and chicken recipe. Can you hand me the celery, please? We are going to be using the rest of our, just put it down here. Thank you. We're going to be using the rest of our giant head of cabbage. So the made with Lao recipe calls for a pound. So that's about half a head of a giant head of Napa cabbage. And then we are going to want cornstarch, chicken bouillon powder, fish sauce, oyster sauce, and then some more ginger. So this one calls for about 4 spoonfuls of minced ginger, so this much. And then, of course, salt and sugar, which we already have out. All right, so now we are done with our ingredient rundown. Let's start with ingredient prep. And just out of curiosity, if you want to type into the chat which recipe you'll be making with me today, and if all 3, whew, good for us. Okay. All right. So let's go back to our vegan recipe, which we'll start with first. So I think the vegan one is the easiest filling to prep, mostly because you also don't need to be working with meat. So we'll start with that one. So we're gonna actually put our wrappers aside because we're not going to be using them until the very end. So John, do you mind putting these wrappers over there on that counter so we have more counter space? Yes, yeah. Okay. So again, we are still waiting for our mushrooms to rehydrate. So these are basically going to be sitting here until we've minced and diced the ingredients for all of the recipes, and then they'll be cooled and ready to go. So after the mushrooms, we are going to want to pre-fry our vermicelli. So I am actually going to, John, oh, raccoon, where did you go? All right, we'll put that aside. So we're gonna eventually be breaking these into little chunks and frying them in our pan to make them puff up. And the reason for this is we are actually going to mix this later with our minced cabbage. So, John, can you help me take this and walk over to the range with me? Hello. All right. So this is, again, my parents' kitchen setup, which is much larger than my Manhattan apartment. So this, we're going to use quite a lot of oil because we actually want to like essentially deep fry this into like a puffy snack. So you can use any neutral oil with a high smoke point. My parents have been using a lot of avocado oil lately, I believe because Costco has had a sale. So we're just going to go with that. So we're going to turn the range onto high for now. Go ahead and pour just a bunch of oil in. And this will be drained later, so don't worry about using too much. And we'll be reusing the oil to pre-fry our diced mushrooms later as well. Okay, so while we're waiting for that to heat up, let me pre-break this up into a little bowl. Mom, do you want to say hi?
Oops.
Oh, this is my mama. All right, Mama, how big did you break these into last time?
Well, you just fry here.
Yeah, but we're gonna break it into pieces, right?
You don't need break. I can give you more oil.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a lot of oil.
Since I already have it. There.
I'm gonna break it into thirds just so that it's a little easier to submerge into oil.
All right. I can turn this. Noise.
Put it on one.
Yeah, I think we're okay. So if you can see, John, if you want to zoom in, a little bit of vermicelli already fell into the oil and it's already starting to puff up. So let me just put another couple of bits in to test the temperature. Okay, so it looks like we still need to wait for it to heat up a little bit. Yeah. Let's take a tour around the kitchen while we're waiting and say hello to the cats. Follow me.
They escaped. I don't know here. They're used.
Here we have your Howl, who was actually trying to steal mushrooms earlier. Well,
Lazy and worthless.
it's true. It's true. And we have our outside, which is very rainy today. We were gonna go out and have like hot pot, but we'll probably just have it. How? Why do you have a pink thing in your hand?
Thievery.
It's true. All right, let's go back. So that's good. So as you see, the vermicelli is already starting to puff up. So my mom comments that she thinks it still needs a little bit more time.
Because if you put it in instantly puffed up.
Okay.
Otherwise, it will stay that way.
Okay. That is good to know. 谢谢 Mama. Thank you, Mom. Yeah, so while we're waiting here, does anyone have any questions that I can answer? And keep in mind that I am not like an expert dumpling maker, right? So this is all of us cooking together and learning together at the same time. And I will say, like going forward, probably tackling just one dumpling recipe at a time is much easier because then you don't have as many like competing steps. But in my own experience, I find that especially if I'm making dumplings in New York and inviting folks over, there are a lot of folks with different dietary preferences. So I usually almost always have like a meatier dumpling and then a more vegan dumpling. All right, I see a lot of oil, so I
There was someone said something.
Oh, what did they say?
I don't know how to pull it up on YouTube. In chat, they said I was only able to find wonton wrappers. Will that be okay?
Yeah, so I think if you only have wonton wrappers,
One out.
so usually wonton wrappers are a little thinner, but if you only have wonton wrappers, yeah, we'll go ahead and use them. So we're gonna go ahead and pick up our fried vermicelli, which look like little noodly worms right now, as soon as they're ready. Okay, well, I'm just gonna leave the rest in there because I can't get them. No, it's okay. So we're just gonna finish the rest of these. Okay, thank you, Mom. So my mom is helping to take out.
If you take this too long, this is not good.
Okay.
You can throw it away.
Okay, my mom is like, throw away the ones that have been fried too long because they're probably carcinogenic or something. So the reason why we're frying these up is kind of a trick that my mom has been using. So usually when we're working with dumpling recipes that have leafy greens in them, for example, cabbage, one of the issues is the filling becomes very watery. And then that makes wrapping kind of hard. So as we'll see later with the Walks of Life recipe, what they recommend is pre-salting the cabbage to draw the water out. So this is another method to help handle the excess water in the filling. So instead of salting the filling for our vegan recipe, we are pre-frying vermicelli, which often goes into vegan and vegetarian dumpling fillings as well. But instead of boiling the vermicelli, we are going to fry it and then mix it directly into our minced cabbage, which will actually help draw out the water and then make the vermicelli also plump. Okay, so one more, there's just a little bit more. Thank you so much, Mom. We're going to take our fried vermicelli back and put it on our table.
Do I remount?
You can remount it so you don't have to hold it the entire time.
Do I do something to stay there?
No, I still see it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, Mike, okay, yes, the wonton question we answered. All right. So just a note on wrappers. If you go looking for store-bought wrappers, you'll probably see a lot of different brands, and some of them will say, you know, dumpling wrappers. Some of them will say pot sticker wrappers. Some of them will say wonton wrappers. So in general, wonton wrappers are the thinnest, because when we cook and eat them, the texture of wontons are very sort of like slurpy and slippery, and it's very delicious. And then dumpling wrappers are kind of medium thickness, and usually those are the ones that, you know, you boil or you steam. And then pot sticker wrappers are a little bit thicker because when they're pan fried, they're a little bit chewier. But honestly, for pot sticker and dumpling wrappers, they can be used pretty interchangeably. And then for wonton wrappers, I think we should still be able to use them for dumplings as well. So let us know how they turn out. Right. All right. So we have our fried vermicelli, and then so now we are going to mince our cabbage. Can you put the mushrooms aside for now? I'll put this underneath. I'm going to put our vermicelli aside and then get started with mincing our ½ pound of cabbage. So here we're using Napa cabbage, which has a slightly higher water content. So I'm just going to put all the cabbage in here. Might need a slightly bigger bowl. John, can you go see if there's a bigger bowl than this? But I will. All right, so feel free to mince along with me. That is our bird flock telling us it is 2 p.m. And so usually the veggies, I just slice them into strips. And then turn it 90 degrees and start chopping. So, Mom, how finely do you usually mince your cabbage? 你一般切得多碎?
Smaller than that one.
Okay, yes, I'm just starting to.
You want me to help you too?
All right, well, sure, since you're here, you can demonstrate. Do you want to come over? Come over this way.
I can cut here.
So this is Mama Panda picking up the cleaver.
Oh, you get on it. Only all by the top.
Okay, she's gonna get another knife. So while she's doing that, I'm gonna continue mincing. And for those of you with food processors, you can also do this in the food processor. I tend to like to keep my tools pretty simple, so I'm just gonna stick with the knife. So you see over here, my mama's knife skills are much better than mine. I'm just gonna put my roughly minced cabbage into the bowl. Chef's here. And so dumplings, or at home we usually call them 饺子 or 水饺 because we almost always boil ours. You can also make 蒸饺, which is steamed dumplings, and 煎饺, pan fried. They are a very traditional Chinese New Year fare. And so usually, just like this, usually it's not one person making the dumplings, it's an entire group of people making dumplings together. So, one of the reasons why I don't make dumplings from scratch normally is because, it takes a lot, it takes a long time and it's multi-stepped. But actually in a holiday context, it's really nice because it's kind of like a shared family activity. You have maybe the Chinese New Year gala, or I don't know, like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings playing in the background. And then if you're making your wrappers from scratch, people are kneading the dough. That's a step that kids can very exuberantly help with, right? Because it's like kneading Play-Doh and they don't need to use knives or anything. And then a more experienced elder will probably be rolling the wrappers out into actual round shapes. And then for folks who are, good at sous chefing, then this is where the chopping and the mixing. So for those of you who are cutting along at home, we are about done mincing. So if you're not done yet, no worries.
Sometimes it's too dry, you need moist first.
Are you talking about the ones we got?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I think they're just sitting at room temperature right now.
They're too dry, they will.
Okay. So what my mom is whispering over there is she feels that store-bought wrappers can often be a little dry as opposed to handmade wrappers. So if you want to keep it super moist, you can unwrap the wrappers and put a wet paper towel over them first. So we'll do that later. Okay. All right. So our cabbage is pretty minced up. My mom is just finishing up over there. So we're going to just move on to the tofu. So the tofu we want to also chop very finely, but not as finely as the cabbage, right, Mom? We still want
Similar.
Okay, similar to the cabbage, but usually I would say maybe a little larger so that it's chewier. So This cabbage or this tofu we actually got at Walmart. It's the extra firm tofu. So I'm just cutting it into very thin slices, which we will be. Okay, so I'm actually going to pause the tofu real quick because, hold on, okay. Well, thank you, Mom. I feel like now that you are helping, we're going to be moving along very quickly. So yes, it would be wonderful if you helped, 谢谢. So yeah, so the reason why I'm pausing the tofu is now that the cabbage is ready, we actually are going to want to mix this with the pre-fried vermicelli. So this is what's going to help draw the water out. So actually, Mom, instead of you cutting the tofu, how about you mix the cabbage with the 粉丝 with the vermicelli? Okay, 谢谢. Yep. So what my mom is doing right now is just like crushing it into little tiny pieces so that she can more easily mix. And for our filling, I have some chopsticks, which I pulled out, which we can help with the mixing process, but actually a way to mix your filling very quickly and very thoroughly is to just use your hands. So at home, we're just like eating by ourselves. So usually we just use our bare hands. But if that's something that you don't want to do, or if you're cooking for a large group of people, you can also use those plastic gloves. And yeah. So my mama is now mixing the crunched up fried poofy vermicelli with the cabbage. And then this is going to help draw out the water. And while she is doing that, I'm just going to finish chopping up the tofu. So if you're cooking this with a partner or with some kids in tow, this is also a good division of labor. So have that extra pair of hands mixing the dumpling filling, and then the person with the cleaver or the knife finishing up the filling chopping.
That's good.
Okay, so I was asking my mom in Sichuanese how she feels about this size of the tofu, and she's like, "Hai koi." Yeah, that's pretty good. So I'm gonna keep it at this size. So a note on vegetarian and vegan fillings, you can honestly use anything. So any vegetable or vegan protein that you like. The main thing to keep in mind is we want to choose things with relatively low water content. So, firm tofu like this, most of the water has already been pressed out. For the cabbage over there, we compensated for the high water content with our poofed up vermicelli, and scallions are also pretty low in water content. So the last thing we'll be adding is mushroom, but the mushrooms aren't quite ready yet. So we're gonna add that at the very end after we've prepped everything else. All right. So at this point, my mom, I'm glad I'm doing this class with my mom actually, because dumplings are not my forte. So she's like, at this point, oh, go ahead, you can say it.
Then you need to get the edge moist.
Okay, so what she's done now is she's unwrapped the dumpling wrapper, and she's basically taken a bowl of water and just like spun the edges of the wrappers around in the water so that, Mom, let me hold it closer. So she basically dipped the edges of the wrapper into this bowl of water so that they're moist enough when we start wrapping to stick together. And then she's also pre-wet a paper towel to put over the wrapper. And this, according to my mom, helps keep it nice and moist so that we can use it to wrap things more easily. Okay, all right. So gonna take a break from chopping the tofu. And so same thing, we have our stack of dumpling wrappers, which is about, I think,
You can lose-
45.
You can lose a little bit if you want. Which you can
It's here.
just this.
Hold it here. Yep. So
Loose.
she's loosening it and then dipping the edges into water. Okay. And then putting it back in the little thing it came from with the edges now wet. She's dipping some paper towel into water and then she's just giving it a nice little face mask so it's nice and moist. All right, thank you, Mom. All right, so I'm gonna finish with my tofu. So my chopping board is a little small, so I'm actually going to just transfer the tofu directly into our vegan mix. I see folks finishing up with cabbage over there, which is great. Jen, can you help me turn my iPad back on so I can see the next step? Let's see.
You need to, well, you need to go here then.
Yeah, to the docs.
You get to look at it.
It's $495, $390. Ignore me as I mutter my iPad password to everyone watching this video. All right, so our tofu is ready. And then the last thing for our vegan dumpling, aside from the mushroom, is scallions. So this recipe calls for 2 scallions, thinly sliced. So I'm just going to cut off the ends. And I'm actually going to split the whites into half before chopping it. All right, so this is our scallions, also called green onions or toon. This could probably be a little bit more finely chopped, but good enough. Okay, just gonna put this on here. So that is our vegan filling, about 90% done. I'm not going to mix it for now. I'm just going to let the vermicelli on the bottom continue to mix with the cabbage. But once we come back and add our mushroom, we'll mix it all together. All right, so put that aside for now. And we're going to add our flavoring with the mushroom. So we're going to pause on the flavoring. And move over to our next dumpling recipe, which is going to be our cabbage, pork, and mushroom recipe with blocks of life. I need your help again. Can you help me move this camera to over here?
It's just to the middle of the table.
Yeah, you need to unwind it a little.
Yeah.
Yeah. Move this chopping board over.
Are you trying to see the chopping board?
Yes. Or no, that's okay. My mom is super helpful. She's like, why don't I prep all of the veggies beforehand at the other space? But that may defeat the purpose of the real-time cook-along. But sis, mama. All right, so now we are doing our walks of life recipe. So it might be fun if I show you I'm almost done with this image, but not quite. But basically what we're working on is this recipe now. The walks of life, pork, cabbage, and mushroom dumpling. Okay. So just to go back, we already have our dumpling wrappers prepped, and this is the Google Doc that I emailed out to everyone that you can also access after this class as well. So we have our dumpling wrappers. We already have the shiitake mushrooms soaking as well. So we started this class at about 1:36 and it's almost 2:30. So it's been soaking for an hour, which is good. We will let it soak for another 45 minutes or so. So that is waiting. And the next thing we're going to do is mince cabbage again. So this is another recipe that calls for cabbage. So we're going to mince it up finely as well. And then we're going to add salt to it instead of vermicelli as the second method to draw the salt out. So let me start mincing this. And if anyone has any questions or comments, please go ahead and put them into the chat. All right, time for me to channel my mama and make these as thin as possible. Mama, can you get me another big bowl? I don't think the bowl here is big enough for the filling. Get that one.
You think the third one you can use this?
Yeah.
Or is it too big?
No, I think that's okay.
I can get you another one.
I'm gonna put my minced cabbage. So again, for the walks of life, pork, cabbage, and mushroom dumpling recipe, we're using 1/2 pound of cabbage as well. So for their recipe, they specify Napa cabbage, which is what we're using today. But if you don't have it and you're using another type of cabbage, that's also all right. What happened to our old cleaver, Mom? This isn't the one I grew up with.
Old what?
The cai dao, the vegetable cleaver. I feel like this one isn't as sharp, and I just sharpened it. That's okay. So one thing I like about cleavers is you can use it as a chopping utensil. You can also use it as a transport plate. Okay, just a couple more leaves. And when you're chopping up your cabbage, it's going to look like you're going to have a lot of filling, but this is going to wilt down after the water is drawn out. Oh, so I see we have a question. Okay, so Leslie says, if pork isn't an option, but you want ground meat, what is your favorite substitution? So what would you say, Mom? If there's no ground pork, what would you use? Well, I guess my mom is vegan, so she's not the best person to ask. So
You have chicken.
yeah, so we have chicken as our third recipe made with lao, and you can also use chicken.
You can use the egg. You can use the crumbled egg.
Okay, so my mom is giving another vegetarian option. So she was vegetarian for many years before becoming vegan. And so another vegetarian dumpling filling option is scrambled egg. So you would pre-scramble your eggs, and then that would kind of be the chewy protein that is inside your dumpling. I've actually been experimenting with other plant-based grounds. So I haven't made dumplings with impossible meat before, but I have made like maple tofu and stuff with it. So I think that is another potential substitute. I would say for something like that, often they already have flavors pre-added to the ground. So that might make your dumplings taste a little different. I've actually been, so it's kind of an update. I've been considering doing a paid partnership with a OG vegetarian brand called Corn, which also makes, yeah. Okay, Leslie, we'll use eggs. Yeah, not the biggest fan of new meat stuff. Yeah, totally get you. So yeah, so the other brand that I've considered trying to use is this brand called Corn, which from the reviews and research that I've done, I haven't signed a partnership contract with them yet because I want to try it before I make any decisions. But from what I've read in their reviews, people say that they prefer it sometimes as a meat substitute because there isn't any other additional flavoring added. So they can actually bring out the flavors of the recipe as intended. So Leslie says corn, seitan, tempeh. Oh, I don't know what TVP is. Tastes better to me. Good to know.
It's texture protein. It's basically like soy or wheat gluten.
Gotcha.
Like the proto impossible stuff from like 40 years ago.
Got it. Thank you. Right, our cabbage and one more. So for dumplings, the bulk of the prep work is going to be chopping up and mixing all of these ingredients. And then usually in my experience, the person who is most experienced in the kitchen will do this, which is funny that I'm doing it, but it is good. This means that I am taking up the reins. And then usually when it comes to the wrapping of dumplings, that's a whole family affair. So when we get to that, I am going to recruit my mom, my dad, if he's around, and then John, do you know how to wrap dumplings? Okay, well, he's really bad at it, but that's okay because everyone starts not too good. I mean, I'm not great myself, but I will say the chopping of cabbage is the most labor intensive part of making dumplings, in my opinion. Yes, my mom is also saying you can use a food processor. So this visit home actually has led me to discover that my parents are actually starting to use a lot more gadgets, which we'll see in a little bit. So there's this app that my Baba has started to use that he's like gotten everything. He's like, oh, here's a contraption to fold dumplings for you. I was like, what? I don't know. Like, does it work very well, Mom? You've used it before. She says no. So we can show it to you, but not a Mama Panda recommend. All right. So our panda.
The size is not matched.
Oh no, I forgot these. Do I want to? Okay. I will not be lazy and chop the rest of these out. All right. So I will say that before, when I used to, read dumpling recipes, or when my mama would tell me, you need to pre-soak the mushroom for hours, I'm like, nobody's got time for that. But now that I'm, chopping up the cabbage, I'm like, okay, well, by the end of chopping everything up, that would have been about 2 hours. So. Shut here. All right, finally, our second batch of cabbage all chopped. All right, so now that we have our cabbage ready, clean up a little bit. We're gonna mix it with some salt and just set it aside. So Walks of Life calls for about half a teaspoon of salt. I'm gonna put a little bit more because I think my cabbage over here is a little bit more than
Actually, you
0.5.
put the 香油 first before you put salt. Otherwise, you'll get a lot of water out.
No, so their recipe calls for salt first, and then the water comes out, and then you're going to drain the water, and then So we're testing out recipes that are not native to the Yi family. So this is the Walks of Life family recipe. So they call for cabbage first, and then we pre-salt it. So let me get the salt. And I'm actually going to measure it out, but you can probably just eyeball it. And also my teaspoons are not actual measuring grade teaspoons. So okay. And then I'm just going to mix it up. All right, so I've mixed it so that the salt is distributed. And let me go rinse my hands, and I'm actually going to grab a timer. So their recipe is quite specific. They say to set the cabbage, the salted cabbage, aside for 30 minutes and no more. Knowing my ADHD self, I will not remember looking at the clock. So right now it's 2:30. So we are going to want to kind of squeeze this dry at 3. I'm going to forget, so I'm going to set a timer. Oh, thank you, Mom.
You can just put start.
Okay, yeah, can you, all right, so my mother has set a 30-minute timer. I'm gonna drop this into the bowl, aren't I? All right, so once that timer is up, we'll know that the Walks of Life cabbage is ready to go. Let me rinse my hands. All right, so that is good. The next thing we're going to do for the Walks of Life recipe is we are going to marinate our meat. So in their recipe, they call for just adding everything to the ground pork. I'm actually going to pre-make the marinade, which is a trick that I learned from the last recipe we're doing, which is the chicken and celery recipe from Made with Lao, because I find that it makes the marinade easier to mix with the meat. So, what we're gonna want for our marinade is first about half a tablespoon of minced ginger. So we're gonna mince that first. Sometimes I'm a little bit lazy about it and I'll just wash the ginger and then mince it without skinning it, which I will not do today because my parents would be mad. So a very easy way to skin ginger is you can just scrape it with the side of a spoon. I think my dad actually bought another gadget to scrape skin off the ginger, but I'm just going to use the spoon for now. All right. Okay. So I'm gonna mince up that ginger. So we want the ginger for this. So sometimes I'm a little lackadaisical about mincing my ginger when I'm stir frying stuff, but for the dumpling filling and later on, I'm gonna do another class about making yuanzi or like meatballs in Chinese style broth soup. We want our ginger to be pretty fine. Otherwise, when we bite into it, we might just get a large chunk of ginger, which is not the most pleasant. So ginger. So after our half a tablespoon of ginger, we are going to put about 2 tablespoons of Shaoxing wine. So here we have our Shaoxing wine. And I'm just going to use this tablespoon that I was using for the ground pork, since everything is going into the pork anyway. So 1, 2. Okay. Next, we are going to put in our soy sauce or our 酱油. Asia saying definitely, I hate chopping the cabbage. Haha, no, I feel you. My arm is already a little sore. My right arm is going to get jacked after this session. All right. So 2 tablespoons of Shaoxing wine, about 1.5 tablespoons of soy sauce. Sometimes I have the bad habit of I tend to like things salty. So I'm like, 1.5, 2 tablespoons. 差不多, but I'm gonna try and follow the recipe here. Okay, so 1.5 tablespoons. And then for this recipe, we are calling for about 1 teaspoon of sesame oil. So my parents have sesame oil pre-measured out into this cute little jar. So I'm gonna Okay, sesame oil. And then we want 1 teaspoon of sugar. So So my parents have this cute little sugar jar with a tiny spoon that is definitely not a teaspoon. So I'm just going to guesstimate how much is a teaspoon. So let's do 1.5. Okay. And you'll see that my parents use brown sugar. Mom, is there a reason why you changed to brown sugar instead of white sugar?
No particular reason. I think it's organic.
Okay, so no particular reason. It might have been on sale. So you can also use,
Organic.
oh, sorry, it was organic. So my parents are trying to be more health conscious. But at home, I just use white sugar and it helps to melt a little bit better in my opinion. So after our sugar, we want about 1/4 teaspoon of white pepper powder. So white pepper powder over here. And I'm not going to measure out. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit, but we don't want too much, just about 1/4 teaspoon. I'm going to say that looks good to me. Okay. All right. So after our white pepper powder, the recipe calls for about 1/2 cup of mushroom water, which is going to be this water. So we're going to skip that real quick because we're still waiting for this to completely hydrate. It's almost ready, but let's give it until the end of chopping the cabbage for the other one. So this, we're going to add another 1/2 cup of mushroom water before we add it to our pork. All right, so let's set this aside. And actually the timing should work out quite well because we have about 22 minutes left in the cabbage and salt process. Okay, so right now we have our vegan filling, which is about 90% done. Our Walks of Life pork and cabbage filling, which is about 70% done. The thing that's kind of holding it up is the mushroom we're still waiting for. And so now we are going to move on to the third dumpling of the dumpling 3-way, which is going to be the made with Lao chicken, and celery pot stickers. So let's get that ready. All right. Let's use this new chopping board. Or you know what? I'm going to use the old chopping board. Just going to move it over. John, can you sit over here and keep an eye on the chat? Just and let me know if anyone says anything.
Okay.
You can continue playing your chess game. Just glance up once in a while. All right.
226. Okay.
All right. So the Walks of Life, or the Made with Lao recipe, calls for us to actually mix our marinade first. So let's go ahead and do that. So we will separate the marinade into a little bowl as well. Side for now. Can you hand me a paper towel, please? Just gonna wipe the table. Oh, thank you. So for the made with Lao marinade, I'm gonna see if I can. All right, so we are going to need some water. We're gonna need our salt. We need our sugar, more white pepper powder, oyster sauce, soy sauce, John, can you help me move this over a little bit?
Camera.
So soy sauce, where was I? And then fish sauce. So Made with Lao is, if you guys have not seen their channel before, they are a great Cantonese cooking YouTube channel. They also launched a new Canto cooking club. And so in general, I would say my experience with Cantonese cuisine is it's a lot lighter in flavor, and they are very good at kind of seafood. So I think a lot of their flavors, like even, right, this is not a seafood dumpling, obviously, they are going to have some like seafoody flavors in there, like oyster sauce and fish sauce. Okay, so, and then chicken bouillon powder. And cornstarch. Okay, so for our marinade, we're gonna want 2 tablespoons of water, which I'll use with this. Line. Whoop, splashed out a little bit. I'll add a little bit more. So water. And then 1 teaspoon salt. This spoon is a little larger than an actual teaspoon, so this much salt. And then 1 teaspoon sugar. Oh my goodness, I keep bumping into my camera. Okay. And then 1 teaspoon white pepper powder. And we're gonna do 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce. Okay. Keep that in there. 1 tablespoon of soy sauce. One tablespoon of fish sauce. It's my first time using this fish sauce. How do you dump it out? A tablespoon of fish sauce, then 1 tablespoon of chicken bouillon powder. I think my parents just got granulated chicken soup flavor mix, which I think should work. And lastly, we are going to mix in some cornstarch. So this one calls for 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. And the cornstarch usually helps to keep meat tender. which will help our filling in this case remain juicy. So let's see, 3 tablespoons. One, 2, 3-ish. Okay. So we're gonna mix all of this together in advance. And I think just logically, I'm like, oh yeah, mixing marinade in advance makes a lot more sense than just dumping dry powder onto meat and then hoping everything distributes evenly. So just make sure to give it a good mix so that all of the chunks and the cornstarch is all smoothed out. Okay, I think that looks good. Mom, can I ask for your help again?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're gonna do now that the marinade is ready is we are just going to coat it into,
You want to use the bigger bowl?
no, so we're just marinating this right now. We're not adding the vegetables yet. Yeah. So we are going to add the marinade into our ground chicken. For the Daddy Law recipe, he actually chooses to chop up his own chicken. He thinks the flavor is better that way. And he mixes with his hands. So
Because you mix it in one direction,
okay. So why do you only mix it in one direction, Mom?
because for those fibers, they worked out better.
Okay, so I actually did not know this. I would have mixed it in many different directions.
Yeah,
but
it's always one direction,
so
clockwise or counterclockwise.
okay, good to know. So Mom, can you keep mixing this until it's, yeah. So when you think it's ready, we can stop. You
Okay.
can also use an electric mixer, which will,
Okay.
I believe, also mix everything in one direction. Okay, so can you mix it over there, please? All right, so now that our meat is mixed, we are going to go ahead and chop up our fresh veggies. So let's bring back cutting board. Okay. So first we are going to chop up our ginger again. So for this recipe, whoa, the ginger ran away. For this recipe, we're using quite a bit more, about 4 tablespoons worth of minced ginger. So I'm gonna deskin it. Actually, I might just use the cleaver for this. So I'm gonna just chop off the big knobbly sections that are harder to skin. All right. Again, we're going to mince this ginger as finely as we can. So that mostly involves, get rid of that too, chopping it into very thin slices and then strips, and then turning it over to chop. Thank you, Mama. Thank you, Mom. So while I am chopping the ginger, While I'm chopping the ginger, John, can you, oh wait, hold on, you're playing chess. I forgot it's on a timer. Okay. We're going to dice the ginger / mince it. You watch the Made with Lao video, you'll see Daddy Lao doing this process at lightning speed. It's very, very impressive. And of course, if you have your handy food processor, this is also something that you can do in the food processor. Mom, while I'm mincing the ginger, can you get me a plastic bag, please? Just like the kind of bag that you would hold vegetables in. Any sort of plastic bag.
For what purpose?
I will show you for the celery.
To squish the water out.
Kind of. So for those of you watching, this is the plastic bag that I'm asking for is going to be used in the next step when we chop up the celery. And it is a tip I learned from Daddy Lao, but a little bit larger, so enough to hold the celery. Maybe the bag that the celery came in. Okay. Yeah, that looks good. I do love chopping ginger. It makes everything smell so good. I was gonna say that I am actually quite proud of how far along I've come with my cleaver skills. I've not cut myself once in the past 2 years, although I feel like I should immediately knock on wood because I am still in the middle of chopping. The key is to always kind of curl your fingers and then use your knuckles to guide and never lift your knife higher than your knuckles. So we have our ginger ready. And I'm just gonna put it on top of the meat over here. So we'll mix it all together at the end, but just to save space. All right. So next we are moving on to mincing our 4 stalks of celery. So 1, 2, 3, 4. If they're big, maybe use a little less. Oh, my parents gave me a lot more than 4 stalks. All right, so we're just gonna do these 4. And usually I'm gonna cut off the leaves, most of the leaves, since we already have cabbage as our leafy green. So the reason why I asked for a little plastic baggie is that in the Made with Lao recipe, Daddy Lao recommends kind of pounding the cabbage flat before mincing it. It makes it a little easier. So I'm just using the flat end of my knife. If you have like a rolling pin or something, that could also be. And I'm also using the flat of my cleaver to kind of smush it. And this is If you've seen my other cooking videos, this is how I smush garlic as well. Okay. That is good. You pull it out and just dice up the rest. I'm gonna chop off the ends. Da claw. Yes. I remember the first time I threw a dumpling party. This was when I still lived in Williamsburg, in Brooklyn, where my apartment was larger. I totally underestimated how long this chopping process would take. So I was still cooking like 2 hours after my guests arrived, but they were great about it. They helped. So if you're watching the replay, we are about, when did we start? 1:30, so about 1.5 hours in. And we are probably 70% done with our filling prep. So the filling prep, again, is going to take the longest. Now, of course, if you had multiple people in the kitchen who were working on the filling, this would take about 1/3 of the time. Or if you were just making one sort of filling, you would be done by now. It's true. So I will be putting all of the chopped up veggies actually into this bowl because the Made with Lao recipe calls for us to blanch the grassy taste out of it first. So this recipe, as we'll see later, is another way to draw the water out of your kind of more water laden vegetables. So for my mama's recipe, we used the pre-fried vermicelli noodles to soak up the extra water. And then that will also plump up the noodles in the filling as well. For the Walks of Life, pork, mushroom, and cabbage recipe, which we were preparing right before this, we are pre-salting it. Oh, that actually reminded me to check the timer. So there's 30 seconds left. So we're gonna squeeze the water out of that very soon. And then for the Walks of Life recipe, which is the one we are prepping right now, we're going to blanch and then drain and then physically squeeze dry the veg. Ah, I see we have been joined. Hold him closer. Come here. Hello, my buddy. Okay. Pick up a double. All right, so that is our cabbage timer from before. So we'll see here the cabbage. Yeah, so I don't know if you can see, but there's already water coming out from here. So John, can I ask you a favor? Can you continue chopping this for now? I'm just going to drain the water over there.
Is it just into ones that like this?
Into like little minced things like this.
Do it one stalk at a time, or
Yeah, whatever is easiest for you.
are you just trying to do like a super fine mince on it?
Yeah. John. So while John is mincing the rest of the celery, I am going to mince the rest of our cabbage. Let's move this over here, and then I'm gonna kind of.
Or just chuck it in here?
Yeah. All right, we're on our final leg of vegetable mincing. Wait, no, sorry, chuck it in here. Chuck it in here. All right. Ooh, this knife is much sharper than that cleaver. What kinds of dumplings does your family make, John, usually?
Like pork and napa with chives in it.
Yeah, chives is also a really classic ingredient. I find that
But it'll make your breath stink.
it's
for a
true.
really long time.
And
Even
I
if
feel
you
like
brush your teeth or use mouthwash.
cabbage is a much more, I think, crowd pleasing veggie. Chives are delicious. So I think before I used to think that people would put garlic in their dumplings, which is, I've never seen actually a dumpling filling recipe with garlic. So what garlic does go into, if you want to add garlic, is the dumpling sauce. And then there are some people, like my baba, for example, who will actually just peel a whole clove of garlic and like munch on it as he eats dumplings, which my mama hates. She's like, it makes your breath smell horrible for 2 days. Can you hand over that thing? Yeah, we're gonna put both the celery and the cabbage into this little thing. If you're done with that, can I give you some more cabbage to
Yeah,
mince?
okay. I want to see what's the shape of ring. Is it like little slivers, or is it just like
Ju-
is
just-
it just obliterated?
Same as this, as finely as possible. But you don't have to do it too finely.
Obliterated.
Yes, obliterate it, please.
Smithereens. Chopped into smithereens.
It's true. I can't see the chat box right now. Can you just keep a beady eye on it?
Still says the claw.
Der Claw. What was that in response to, Leslie?
Probably have to, were you saying that you can make the claw when you
Oh, yes, that's right. Yes, make Der Claw.
The Toy Story reference, you know? the
Yes,
claw.
no, John like makes the reference all the time. Der Claw is so hard to play. I've never once successfully picked anything up at a fair claw toy. Well, I mean, some people win, so it can't be completely rigged.
Has to be rigged or there's no profit.
Almost there. All right. I'm actually very impressed that the cats have not been circling. Usually they can smell that there's meat paste up here and they're all over the table. It could be that the table's very full. I don't actually have any place to perch. I will say that, probably it would be a good idea for us to invest in a food processor.
Do people make these with a food processor?
Oh, like
I
with
guess so.
something like the cabbage, it's so much easier. Like, especially also if we wanted to use carrots, which we're not using today. Oh, those would be such a nightmare to mince by hand in large quantities.
Smithereeny enough or probably more.
Oh yeah, it's smithereeny enough. Let's see. Let me give you this much more. Ah!
God, we're really full up the top.
Yeah, that's all right. You can just squish it down. We're gonna be blanching it soon.
Is this something different?
Yes, that's another one. Yeah, don't put it in there.
Need a bigger cutting board.
I used to have a huge one. I think it broke. I'll have to get them another one. Or it might be outside in the stir fry stations. I feel like it could be cool to get one of those like large tree trunk cutting boards, like Lisa uses in her videos. but I feel like it's a little disingenuous for me to get one living in New York City. Like, I feel like it's easier with her actually living in like a rural area. Yeah. All right. So let's just finish that up. Actually, let's go ahead and just dump everything into this one. All right, so what we are going to do now is, can you take the camera now? We're going to go over to the sink. So we are going to blanch the, not yet.
I'm just gonna wash my
Okay,
hands.
yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to blanch the cabbage and celery we just chopped up. So let me grab some hot water. So if you grew up in a Chinese household or Asian household, something like this, can you see, might look familiar. So we always like to drink hot water, like either plain or with tea. So we always have like this giant thermos. So I'm just gonna pour everything into here.
Watch the steam. Does anybody see the steam?
I was going to boil up a pot of water to blanch this, but then I realized my parents already had a giant hot water bottle. All right, I'll be right back. You all need to follow me.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we're gonna do is, this is mostly just to, according to the Made with Love recipe, get rid of the grassy taste that is mostly in the celery, but it will also help us help dehydrate the, ideally, this thing would have been just as large as the bowl. Okay, you might lose a little bit, but that's all right. So I'm gonna rinse it with cool water.
We're just gonna
Because we don't actually want our, veggies to be cooked. Just want to blanch it real quick. All right. So we rinse it with cool water. If you had a bowl of ice water, you can also just dunk it in there. And then we are going to squeeze this as dry as possible.
That's why in the house we have the spinner. The spinner's the best.
Use the spinner. In the absence of a spinner. Okay. So we squeeze this dry, right, by hand. And some more water is probably going to come out. So we're going to leave this in the bowl. That. All right, so now we are ready finally.
Does it go clank back in?
Not yet. I think it'll be better if you hold it for a sec to work with the mushrooms. So since we have been cooking for quite a while, it is now 3:15. I'm going to give everyone a 5-minute break to, if you need to use the restroom, go use your restroom. I'm gonna clean up my workspace a little bit more. John can give you all another gander at our cats. And then at 3:20, we're gonna come back and finish the last step of our ingredient prep, which is with the mushrooms. So I'm gonna set a timer for 5 minutes and I will see everyone back tasting. You can keep the stream going.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe we can have the cat cam as the break cam. Can you
I
just
can't zoom it in, so it's just gonna look really tiny.
And it's unlikely that he will obey anyhow.
I think he's pretty comfy where he
Yeah,
is.
but I can't zoom in on him, so he's really tiny.
And then you're move dish over there.
No, I mean he's just tiny no matter what because it's high up. You can't zoom in.
You can like sync the camera lower though.
Oh, your battery's almost or your 20% battery. Yeah, it looks like we're like a satellite on him, but
Do you have your charger here?
yeah, but it'll kind of like tie us up with that.
It's okay.
You know,
Thanks. No, it's okay. John has a portable one. Asia, haha, he's cute. Yes, and he knows it. He gets away with so much stuff.
This is why we must make him into the dumplings. First, we must pluck the fur.
Mom, where are the measuring cups? Measuring cup. I just need half a cup. Oh. No, he found something. What
It's
did
a
he find?
noodle. It's one of the noodles or something.
Slide him back into the camera.
Help me wipe up this stuff. Oh, fried noodles. Oh, it's kind of crispy.会你喜欢那个？哦，你会再烧点水。开水啊。
Ground that I can run out.
We're gonna start again in about 30 seconds.
Where's it gonna be?
I'm gonna, how about you put it over here so the wire is a little,
So the wire is gonna be fine.
Yeah.
What is it right here?
yeah, so I'm gonna wanna, all right.
Facing, oops.
All right, we good?
The hell again. Okay, so here we are.
What's this?
Yeah, I have to tilt it the right way. Oh, nice. That's good. Wow.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, everyone. We are back to part 2 or part last 30% of our dumpling 3-way class. All right. So we started at 1:30. Now it is almost 3:30, which means that we have successfully soaked our mushrooms for almost 2 hours. So first thing we're gonna do is, I guess I'm just gonna pick them up by hand. You can also ladle them out. And we wanna squeeze them dry as much as possible.
You're a little on the left. Yeah, better.
Ooh. Okay. They're like little sponges. Mushroom water actually looks really pretty. Okay. So we are going to save half a cup of this for the Walks of Life recipe. So I'm just going to scoop half a cup out and set it aside. And then Mom, for your recipe, do you fry the mushrooms at all, or do you just chop them up?
I can chop them. I can stir fry everything except the cabbage
Okay.
ahead of time.
All right. So for my mom's recipe, sometimes she fries them up before, sometimes she doesn't. But since with the made Walks of Life pork, mushroom, and cabbage recipe, they do call for the mushrooms to be diced and stir fried in advance. We're just going to go ahead and dice and stir fry all of them at once. Okay.
That's how we were saying.
So my mom says if you stir fry them before putting them in the dumplings, it makes it more fragrant and tastier. But of course, it also adds a little bit more time. So for the mushrooms, I would say chop them up to around the same size as our tofu bits. So about this size, maybe a little smaller. So the mushrooms for both our vegan dumplings as well as the pork, cabbage, and mushroom dumplings add a really nice kolgan or mouthfeel. And we squeezed out most of the water content, but they'll still be nice and moist and plump. So that when we eat them later, it'll be really delicious and chewy. So I don't know if you guys can hear some hissing in the background. We are pre-boiling some water in our kettle so that later when we start, cooking our pot stickers / dumplings, we won't have to wait as long for the water to heat up. So if those of y'all in American households who do not have a hot water heater, I am here to evangelize and say it is a very useful addition to your household. So now we're just dicing up our pre-soaked. So in Chinese, this is just called hei mo gu or black mushrooms, but more often than not, the dried black mushrooms are shiitake mushrooms. So if you are at an Asian store, you know, the label might say dried shiitake mushrooms, or they might just say dried black mushrooms. And that is what we want. Cutting these up, they already feel so velvety. Very nice. We're almost done. Let's finish these up. All right, so I am now just finishing up dicing up 我们的黑蘑菇, our shiitake mushrooms, which have been rehydrated in water for 2 hours. And so, as my mama mentioned, sometimes, right, especially if we're running low on time, we'll just go ahead and toss the amount, which is about half, into our vegan filling. But since we are doing the whole shindig today, we're going to just lightly pre-stir fry these in oil for some added flavor. John, I need your help again. Okay, so we're just gonna take this. So we're going back to the range. So follow along. Are we using this one? Okay, since you tofu can be. No, I'm just gonna stir fry this. What is in here? Vegetable oil. Okay, so we're gonna just use whatever this mysterious vegetable oil is. Did you turn it on, Mom? Oh, she did. Okay. Okay, so that's about good. The mushrooms don't really stick. So you'll see that my parents' range is now an electric range, which is not what we grew up with. They moved after I moved out. So we actually have 2 stir fry stations. So the inside is this flat top range, and then we actually have in the backyard another, I don't think you can see it, but in the backyard, my dad has set up another outdoor stir frying area where we use like gas canisters, and then that can have like the big fire for the wok hay. Are both of these on?
Yeah, only inside. You don't need outside because
Oh, you're heating something here as well.
yeah.
Yeah, there are lights right there.
Just check the heat.
Take a long time to warm it up. You can put into the
So as we're waiting for the water to heat up, for the oil to heat up, for the 油 to become 足够的烫. I guess like my mom has already pre-prepped, so she's very good. So today, once everything is wrapped, we are going to be boiling our dumplings, which is how we usually make it. And then we'll also be making pot stickers. So I think let me know in the chat if you would also like to see how dumplings are steamed, but that might add a little bit more time to our class, and I only have allotted 3 hours for this already longer than usual class. So if we don't get to it today, I'll link a video as well to teach everyone how to steam your dumpling. So usually for boiled dumpling and steamed dumplings, those are juicier in my opinion. But I think like they're also better like eaten fresh. And then for pan fried, obviously it's nice and crispy. All right, so it looks like our mushroom is sizzling. So we're gonna go ahead and put all of this in. And the wax of life recipe calls for us to kind of stir fry this at medium heat for about 5 minutes. So I might do this for a little bit less. So no, we're not gonna add salt to this one because we're gonna add it to the filling later. A little unfamiliar with my, okay, I'm gonna turn this down to medium.
Big bowl of soup with some cabbage or bok choy with broth. I don't know.
Is there another?
Yeah, it's just- Oh, yeah, they sent us a suggestion of what to eat with this.
Yeah, some broth with cabbage is really nice. Broth with cabbage. Oh my gosh. Some like brothy. I already put it down to pretty low. Let's raise the camera a little too. Yeah.
It's hard to see if you do that.
The oil is a little splash. Okay, well.
What is the light? Is it this one?
I honestly don't know. Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that look better?
It's easier to see because it's not way bright. Like it can't see multiple brightnesses.
Interesting. See, with my time blindness, I already have lost track of how long this has been stir frying for. So I'm gonna just go for 2 more minutes. So right now it's 3:34. Yeah, I'm trying to think, Mom, when we eat 饺子, do we eat anything else with it normally? Like, 大家出去吃饺子的时候, like,
Usually not the main dish for me.
me personally, because I tend to eat a lot of meat, kind of filling dumplings, I'll go for a lighter veggie fare. So like, you know, maybe some stir-fried greens. The person who suggested like tongue, like a big cabbage-based broth, is good. I'm gonna give it until 3:35. Okay, we are good. Just okay. It's actually quite cool, but I'm gonna scoop it out. Can you come help me hold the pot so I can actually just scoop it straight?
She says, "Can you freeze them if there's extra?"
Dumplings? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so usually I would say I always make extra just because like the making of the dumpling is such a production. It's, you know, not really worth it to just make enough for what you want to eat day of. So right now in this house, there are 4 of us and we're making way more dumplings than we can eat. So, so we are going to be freezing the rest. Okay.
Should I remount it?
Yeah, that would be great. Oh, it looks so good. The mushroom looks all golden and crispy. So now we are ready to finish off all of our fillings. So we're going to start again with the vegan filling that we started with in the very beginning. Okay, so the only thing this is missing is our mushrooms and then the flavoring. So we are going to put about, let's see, a third of our fried mushrooms into here, because this recipe called for about 5 dried shiitake mushrooms. That looks right. Okay. No, the other one is for the other recipe, Mom. My mom's like, put them all in. All right. And then in this, we are going to mix the flavoring for the vegan dumplings, which is going to be I might just, Mom, for the 放盐啊那些东西，你也是直接加，还是你在 Okay, so my mom just like adds the flavoring directly into the big mix. So that is what we're going to do. So we are going to add 1 tablespoon of salt. And I'm just going to eyeball it into my hand. We have some extra filling in here, so I'm going to make it a little saltier. Also, I recently saw a tattoo design that was very interesting, where the person had like a quarter of a teaspoon, a tablespoon in his palm. Okay, we're going to add in our salt. We're going to add in a teaspoon of white pepper powder. So have our white pepper powder back here. So this went into, I believe, all of our recipes. There are some recipes that call for Sichuan peppercorn powder as well, which I appreciate as a Sichuanese person, but today we're not going to be using Sichuan pepper powder. If we want our mala, we are going to also make a sauce with that powder. Okay, and then lastly, we are going to add 1 teaspoon of hoisin sauce or 海鲜酱. And again, hoisin sauce is actually vegan. Where did it go? Oh, it's over there. Yeah, it's the purple one. Yeah. So hoisin sauce is the Cantonese pronunciation of 海鲜, which literally means seafood flavored, but the ingredients actually don't include any animal products. So similar to how fish fragrant flavor profile in Sichuan cooking is actually, it only refers to the spices usually used to flavor fish and is not actually made of fish itself. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit of extra. And I'm gonna mix that with chopsticks. So again, you can mix this with chopsticks. No, thank you, Mom. Or you can mix it with your hands. I might ask a helper. Mama, can you help come mix this? The vegan filling, can you help mix this while I finish up the other? Okay, so I'm going to hand this off to my mama to combine it. 谢谢. Okay, so next we are going to move on to our walks of life, cabbage, mushroom, and pork. All right, so we've already, for this, pre-stir fried our mushrooms, right? And we also saved about half a cup of that mushroom water. So what we're gonna do first is to that marinade we started prepping before, right? We're going to add in the mushroom water. I'm gonna combine it until it's thoroughly mixed. So here we have our cabbage that has already been pre-salted and squeezed dry, drained dry. So now we are going to marinate our pork. So pour this in there and start mixing. So I'm just going to be mixing with a pair of chopsticks because I don't want to get my hands dirty and have to wash them again before I film. But a very effective way of getting this all combined is to just use your hands. So you can put a pair of gloves on. So again, this marinade, which we already made before, has about half a tablespoon of minced ginger. Adds 2 tablespoons of Shaoxing wine. It has 1.5 tablespoons of soy sauce, 1 teaspoon of sesame oil, 1 teaspoon of sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of white pepper powder or baihujiaofen, and lastly, that 1/2 cup of mushroom water, which makes it easier for us to mix. So that's good enough for me right now. If you wanted to, you could give this an extra mix. And so finally, we are just going to combine everything together. So let me just check. Okay, so there's still a little bit of extra cabbage water in there, but just barely. Let me. Okay. So in the minutes that this was sitting before, even more water came out. Okay, so now we're going to combine our cabbage, our mushroom, and finally our marinated pork. Okay, so I'm going to start giving it a mix, and then I will also hand it off to my very lovely, in this case, sous chef. I'm usually her sous chef, but this time I'm leading class to just finish mixing this. So Walks of Life calls for you to mix this for 10 minutes to really like make sure everything is combined. I think this, honestly, if I was making it myself, I would probably not do it for 10 minutes, or I would put on a show I really liked and just like watch it while I was mixing. But I'm going to hand this off to my mom to finish mixing. And we are going to combine the Made with Lao one. Mama, 你可以帮我搓这个。Let me put this aside. And finally, Made with Lao. Okay, so Made with Lao, this is our last recipe, our chicken, cabbage, and celery pot sticker. So here we have our pre-blanched and pre-drained celery and cabbage mix, which, yeah, a bunch of water already came out again. So I'm gonna put that away. 都已经去过. Okay. So we're going to put all of our veggies into our big ingredient bowl. Okay. Yeah, that's a pretty good non-watery texture. Okay. And then we are going to add the pre-marinated ground chicken along with the ginger. All right. See, there's a spoon over here to scrape out the rest. You don't want to miss anything. And again, with ground chicken, if you watch the Made with Lao recipe for this, Daddy Lao almost always cuts, or he always just like chops up his chicken from like actual frozen or half frozen chicken breast, because he thinks having it as a paste doesn't taste as good. So I think though, because it is his recipe, it's already going to taste amazing. So this is good enough for me. All right. Hey, John, can you come be the mixer for this particular sauce? All right, so once John comes over and takes this over, we are finally going to start moving on to wrapping. Yeah, so just like mix it so that everything is incorporated. And while that's happening, I'm gonna wash my hands and then I'll take you over for the dumpling wrapping station. Well, I guess, okay. Yeah, I'll set it up then. Can you see what I'm doing here, John, from your end?
No, I can tilt it though.
Just a little bit. So while John is mixing, I'm setting up our dumpling wrapping station. If you're ready, you can move that over here to
You want to just switch?
yeah. Okay. Let's see. Oh, I see someone has a comment. One sec. Oh, can you freeze them if there's extra? We already got to that. Cool. All right. Just wipe up. Any extra? Okay. All right, so for everyone who is here live, let me know in the chat if at least one of your fillings is done. If so, I'll go ahead and start showing everyone how to wrap. But if you're still prepping, that's totally fine. All right, so Leslie is good. Gonna arrange everything and wait for people to update. Okay, Mike is ready, perfect. So Asia and Kristen, just let me know where you are at, and no worries if you're not completely ready. If you're close, we'll be wrapping for a little bit. Let's see, we're ready and ready. Okay, awesome. So what you're going to need for your wrapping station. Oh, nice, Kristen, you're doing all three. Very, very impressive. Oh, I think I got unplugged. Let me plug this back in. Okay, so what you want for your wrapping station. Oh, hello there. Oh, so cute. I see a little buddy joining us. Is you want something to hold your wrapped dumplings in. So we're going to use these green plates here, but in the past, my parents always use something like baking sheets, something really large. They just won't fit in camera right now. So we're using these. And sorry, Hal is just distracting me. He's stretching over there. And then we want a little bowl of water, which we're going to use to wet the edges of our wrappers. We're going to want the wrappers themselves. So as from before, they've been kind of chilling underneath this paper towel face mask so they don't go completely dry. And then usually we want either a little teaspoon, or my parents actually just use chopsticks, and these are for scooping the filling into the wrappers when we wrap. All right. See, here we go. So I will just go ahead and show you how I wrap my dumplings, which is not the most perfect, but in terms of how to wrap your dumplings, there's no right way. So, you know, like many very skilled family cooks have their own special way of folding and wrapping dumplings. So I would say the good rule of thumb is, as long as there's a decent amount of filling, as long as they are completely closed and don't burst apart upon cooking, then they're right. Okay, so we're gonna take one wrapper, and you'll see that on one side there's flour, and on one side it's more smooth. So the flour side is the side that's going to be on your palm. It's going to be the bottom, and the smoother side is where we're going to put the filling. So I'm going to start with the made with Lao. No, this is the Walks of Life, chicken, mushroom, and cabbage. So I usually put about a heaping teaspoonful. Some people put more, but I would say if it's your first step, you know, go with a little less until you're more practiced and you're confident with your folding. So what I usually do is I'll fold mine in half, like a half moon. I'll squeeze mine shut. Oh, I forgot to wet my edges, but this was already pretty wet before, so I'll do it next time. So what I do is I squeeze mine shut, and then I make 3 folds like this, and then I just give it another extra squeeze to tighten it up. So mine looks like that. So let me do another one while I actually wet the edge. Mom, I think you might have wet these too much. They're stuck together.
Actually, let me lose it for you.
No, it's okay. I got the bottom one. I'll
The
stop.
first way is wet.
I already got one.
Okay.
Okay, so let me. You know what, Mike? I think my mom might have also gotten wonton skins. These are very thin. Did you get wonton skins, Mom?
No, this is dumpling skin.
Okay.
Wonton skin is square.
Okay. All right, so for this one, I'm going to wet the edges. So this is almost like sort of wetting the inside flap of an envelope, right? So to make it sticky. So again, what I do is I scoop about a teaspoon, heaping teaspoon in. So some people put more than this. And then I fold it over halfway. I do a pre-seal. So after this, I'll show you how my mom does it, which is faster. And then I make 1 fold, 2 folds, 3 folds, which pretty much kind of seals it, buttons it in, and then to just squeeze it into shape. Give it another squeeze, and then I put it in. Mom, do you want to come demonstrate your?
This one or that
Yeah,
one?
yeah. Come, you can come over here. So my mom is going to show you her method now. She's working with the vegan filling. Come stand here so you're in camera.
Oh,
So like, yeah. So she is, did you already wet it?
this one is pretty wet.
Okay. So my mom just does it all at once. So do it again slower. So, and then can you actually like say what you're doing? Or I can say what you're doing, but do it slower so we can see.
Okay.
So she's taking a dumpling wrapper.
So since this is leftover the wrapper, so it's more soft than when we
So she's
so just
Mhm.
push it down.
Push the filling down.
Then this one, and squeeze.
Okay, so let's hold it up to see the shape. So my mom's is obviously much faster. It looks like this. So the back looks like this. And she does these really quickly. So she just like, you know, wrapper, filling, squeeze, and then she's done. But when I try to do this, I'm going to try and do it her way. My dumplings don't always close all the way. So I do my method just to
So
be
that
safe.
is why you need the moisture.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna still make. Oh, and while we are wrapping, a note on store-bought versus homemade wrappers. So our family has actually traditionally mostly used pre-made dumpling wrappers, but this past Chinese New Year, my mom has started experimenting with homemade wrappers. So we find that the homemade wrappers are moister and then they're chewier once the dumplings come out. So they're very delicious, but in my opinion, these are also very delicious. Okay, so I'm gonna put a little bit more in. Okay, so what was your method, Mom? You fold,
Squish at the top
squish at top,
and put here.
and then just put it in your hands.
Yeah.
And then she just squishes it together.
Yes.
Okay, mine is obviously not closed, so I'm just going to put some more folds in and then squish it again. Oh, yeah. See, when I try it your way, my dumpling looks bad. I'm just gonna continue with my way. This one might burst apart. All right. 你可不可以yeah. 你可不可以把这个放一下水，然后我去 All right, so I'm gonna switch to the chicken and celery pot stickers. And can you grab another plate, John? I'm gonna keep the flavors separate. Okay, so these. Wait, where did your vegan dumplings go? Oh, okay, all right. So I'll keep the 2 meat ones over there, and we're keeping the vegan dumplings on another tray. Okay, so I think I am going to make, let's see, it is almost 4. So we're gonna wrap for another 5 to 8 minutes. I think that'll be enough to give us like a good dozen of each flavor. And then I'm gonna pause and move on to the cooking. But if you're still wrapping, you can continue wrapping. I'm just going to make sure that we film everything within our 3-hour time limit. Okay, so do my pork and celery. So my mom is off camera making the vegan dumplings. Pork and celery.
Oh, wow. Kind of nice though.
Yeah, my mom made those, that's why. So yeah. I feel like I need to look up a video. I'm sure it already exists somewhere about the different dumpling traditions around the world. Because I remember the first time I had an empanada, I was like, oh my gosh, these are like giant dumplings. Okay, so the origins of pot stickers so this is the pot sticker recipe that I'm making. Of course, you can also boil these. But when we're cooking them, we'll do it the way the Lao family does it, which is pan fry. Um, the, yeah, 猪肉饭嘴. So there is one story that says the pot sticker was invented by accident when a royal chef accidentally left the dumplings he was making cooking in the wok for too long, and then the water ran out and it sort of like burned and became crispy on the bottom. And as a result, he invented this new method of making dumplings. So I don't know how true that is. It is a kind of like a sweet story. And that sort of reminds me of, I think, like the legend of how cookies came to be, which was kind of the same thing. Someone was trying to make cake and then left it in the oven for too long and they became crispy. And hence we now have our cookies or biscuits, as the British say. Oh my goodness, I've made like 4, my mom's made 20. Let's see. So while we're wrapping, we are in the middle of the 2 weeks, so 15 days, official days of Chinese New Year. So again, dumplings are usually traditional on the first day of Chinese New Year, Mom? Or the night before? The New Year's Eve, so the night before Chinese New Year. But they are also delicious and can be eaten whenever. And so me, John, and my cats actually didn't arrive home at my parents' place until New Year's Day, which is when we had our first dumplings. So for those of you who are in the Heritage program, you'll know that sort of my go-to is, right, like there are traditions and when to do things at a certain time. But I think the most important thing is to enjoy traditions where you're at. So if you miss a day, that's totally fine. Like the important thing is eating and being festive with the people that you're with. So in terms of festivals, Lantern Festival is coming up. So Lantern Festival, or 元宵节 in Chinese, marks the official end of Chinese New Year. And so this year, that is going to be on February the 5th. And for 元宵节, we actually eat another type of dumpling. So in Chinese, it's called 汤圆. So they are sweet glutinous dumplings with sweet filling. So that is something that we'll be covering later on in early February. And those are made differently. I don't think we've ever made tangyuan from scratch, have we, Mom?
No.
Yeah, so the process, I think, for tangyuan is a bit more involved, and we almost always buy ours pre-frozen.
Many years ago when we were in China.
All right, so let's see. And then the last of our kind of early spring or winter festivals after 元宵节 is this festival that I actually didn't know of growing up. Mom, like, have you heard of 龙抬头 or 中和节?
Not. No.
Yeah, so my mom hasn't even heard of this. So this is a lesser known festival. I think it's celebrated mostly in rural areas. So in Chinese, as 2 names, it's called 中和节 or 龙抬头, I think is a more colloquial name. And in English, this is either the 中和 Festival or the Blue Dragon Festival. And it's a festival sort of meant to kind of like for agricultural like prosperity and like good crops for the rest of the year. So in Chinese mythology, like long or dragons, they don't breathe fire, right? They are water gods, and they are believed in traditional Chinese mythology and religion to control the weather, especially the rains, which is very important for crops. So for Long Tai To or Blue Dragon Festival, the entire sort of host of festivities revolves around kind of like appeasing and celebrating the dragon gods in hopes of a good and bountiful rainy season in the years ahead. And Long Tai To or Zhonghejie is another festival where dumplings are very traditional. And this is very cute. So during this festival, it's said that people are encouraged to eat dragon-shaped foods. So dumplings are seen as dragon ears, and then noodles are seen as dragon beard, and then little pancakes are seen as dragon scales, which to me kind of makes me laugh because it's like, yes, we honor our gods by pretending to eat them, but all right. So I'm gonna make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm gonna make a dozen, around 12. And then we'll move on to cooking them. Mom, someone was asking about freezing dumplings. Can you talk about how to freeze dumplings and talk a little louder so we can hear you?
You can just directly put this plate to the freezer. Then when it's frozen, then you take it out, put it into a plastic bag.
Okay, what if someone can't fit a plate into their freezer? What do they do?
You can just use a smaller plate.
Okay, so
you have to freeze in this way, so you cannot put them together, otherwise they'll smush it together.
okay, so if people want to put dumplings in a bag, because you know how sometimes you can buy dumplings in a bag,
Yeah.
do they freeze it first
Yeah.
and then put it in a
Yeah.
bag? Okay,
You have to freeze it first.
so a good rule of thumb, which is something that I messed up a couple of years before, where me and my ex had made a bunch of dumplings just like this, and then we had put all of them into a Ziploc bag, and then when we tried to eat them again, it just turned into one giant dumpling.
Yeah.
Which is not great. So for, I think it was Kristen who had asked before, can you freeze extra ones? Yes, that is actually the very smart thing to do. So, you know, as my mom mentioned, what you want to do is, if you have a big enough freezer space, you want to just put the entire tray of dumplings that you want to keep for later in, ideally on a surface that's like lined with wax paper or something. These we're putting in plates because we're going to cook them immediately. Yes, Kristen, you freeze them uncooked. So basically, these are the, let me think. Yeah, so you're going to want to put all of the wrapped uncooked dumplings onto some sort of tray or plate, and then put them in a freezer. Or I guess if it's winter, you can just leave them outside for a little bit, but I don't know. We have raccoons and stuff outside, so that might not be the greatest idea. And then once the dumplings are firmed enough, so like once they are, do they have to be completely frozen before you put them in the
Usually
bag?
I put it next day, I take it out,
Okay,
put to a plastic bag.
I see.
So when you cook it, don't thaw, just directly put into boiling water.
Yeah. So what my mom does is, for the ones that she is planning to freeze, she'll put them in the freezer like overnight until they're completely, you know, frozen. And then she'll just take those frozen dumplings and put them into a Ziploc bag. And then they can keep for a long time, right? How long do they keep?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like months?
3 months.
My mom's like, probably 3 months. We usually eat them before like 3 months, but they'll keep for a long time. And you don't need to unthaw them before you cook them again. You just either directly put them into boiling water if you want to boil them, which we will do in just 5 minutes. Or if you're making pot stickers, you can also directly put them into the pan. So the only difference between making frozen dumplings versus cooking the fresh dumplings that we're doing today is you'll need to cook them for a couple more minutes, right, to account for the fact that they're frozen. Of course, Kristen. It's good for me to talk these through because I often forget steps. And so I will probably be rewatching this video the next time. Okay. I think we're probably ready to start making. Okay. So, yep. So we are going to start prepping to cook our dumplings in our 2 different ways. So for those of you who are folding at home, just come to a good stopping point. You know, we're not done with our filling, so don't expect you to be either. But come to a good stopping point, and then we can, I don't know why I'm messing with this one so much. Okay, so let me go wash my hands, and then I will take you over to the range. John? I guess I can hold it.
Cố田我有一个那个点边称，你要做吗？是不是？点边称。
I don't know what that is. Let's cook the dumplings first. Yeah. Okay. Do we want to cook your vegan dumplings first? Do we want to cook your do you want to cook your vegan dumplings first?
No, I don't have to.
Okay, so my mom actually, we've been making like vegan and also pork dumplings over the past couple of days, and she just boils them all together. And she's like, I can tell it's very hard to tell when you mix them together. So I would recommend that you boil your vegan and meat dumplings separately, but to each his own. All right, so I'm gonna follow you over. So these are the vegan dumplings that my mom has prepped. So she has them on wax paper. So yep, so you lead the way, I'll just follow you. Okay. So over here on the range, she actually has 2 pots going.
Yeah.
So these pots already have hot water in them.
Just maybe 1 more minute when it boiled.
Let's take a look. Oh, I thought we were doing the vegan ones first.
Oh, okay. Well, I can do
Big one here.
Okay.
And these 2 you want to separate or you want mixed?
Let's separate them. Wait, which one was which?
Oh,
It's all right. I think this one is the celery and pork. And honestly, it doesn't matter. Like, so one of these is celery and chicken. One of these is pork and mushroom and cabbage. Both of these can be boiled in water or fried in a pan. Now that we've forgotten, we'll just see what the draw of the luck is. All right, so let's start with the boiled dumplings. So as you can see, we already have a medium pot filled with water, and it's at a roiling boil. So my mom is just dropping them in.
so this is a vegan one.
Okay, so once you drop them in,
You just gently make sure they're not stick to the bottom.
yeah, so we're gonna stir it once gently, just to make sure they're not sticking to the bottom or each other. And then we're going to bring it back to a boil. So it's already already still boiling since we didn't put that many in.
Yeah.
And then once we bring it to a boil,
It's just it. Well, vegan one don't have to be a long time. So 6-7 minutes will be enough.
more than enough. And
The meat one you need to cook longer.
yeah, and then for the fire, are we turning it down to
Yeah.
like middle?
Just keep it. Okay.
Yeah, so we want to keep it at like just a like simmer or a low
Oh, yeah.
boil.
Yeah, sometimes it's you can adjust it.
So my parents were actually hold on, so my parents were actually having a little debate about this over the past week. So my dad, his method is just put it in, set a timer, and keep everything at a simmer for about 5 to 8 minutes. My mom was like, well, I read that you should add cool water into the pan like 3 times. And my dad was like, well, they did that back in the day before they had these dials. And that was the only way to control water temperature. So for ease of process, we are just setting a timer and leaving it alone. So the vegan dumplings are going. Now we are doing one of our meat dumplings. Don't know which one this is. So again, the water is at a boil and we're just dropping in the meat dumplings. I'm gonna guess that these are the pork, mushroom, and cabbage
I believe
ones.
so.
Okay, so same process. We're going to just stir it very, very slightly to make sure that it's not just sticking to the bottom.
Yeah, if it stick, you need to do gently. You don't want broken.
And then we are waiting for the water to then come back to a boil before we set our timer.
Yeah, so the meat one probably would take longer for them to floating up.
Yep. So right now the heat is still on high for our meat one, for our pork, cabbage, and mushroom. And you might hear some recipes say that the dumplings will be ready once they float to the surface. And that's generally true. I think like for us, we're a little conservative. So we're like, we don't want it to be raw at all. So we'll add a couple of minutes extra. And to us, it still tastes delicious. Asia, thank you so much for joining. We will be wrapping this up soon and I'll send out the replay as well by email and on your course portal. So happy dumpling eating. Okay, so while that is happening, while we're waiting for this to boil, let's prep the pot stickers. So Mom, what did you say you wanted to make the pot stickers in? Wow, that's fancy. Is this new? Wait, what is that? Is that a waffle iron?
It's 40.
Well, I think we should still use a pot because I need to put some water in the pot sticker first.
Okay, this one you can also put water.
I think it'll squash the dumplings too much. So let's use an actual pan.
Okay,
can we move this vegan one to the back? And then, and let's find another pot for the pot stickers. So we're gonna just keep an eye on. 我晓得找。Hang on. There we are. Sorry. I got stuck on my chat. Okay. Can you hold this real quick?
Hold what?
Hold the camera.
Okay.
Okay, I'll be right back. So cards on the table. I am not a pro at making pot stickers, so I'm following the made with Lao method. So Mom, do you have how long has this been going?
Oh, we can just use that.
Okay, all right. So for our pot stickers, while we're waiting for the dumpling to boil, we are going to put our thing on medium-high heat. You need to be filming here. So we're gonna be putting, which one is it? This one? Okay, so we want the heat to be on medium-high, and we're gonna put 2 tablespoons of oil in the pan. So I'm just gonna eyeball it. Okay, I think that's good enough. And you don't have to use a nonstick pan. This happens to be a nonstick pan. It's probably not as important for the oil to be covering the bottom of this pan since it's already nonstick, but we're just going to make sure that the oil is distributed. We are going to place our pot stickers straight in. So we want for them to, oh, they're kind of sliding into each other since this pan isn't super flat. So we want them like spaced out enough that they're not running into each other. Okay, ours might be a little bit, I don't know, little bit snug since we made a couple of extra.
Okay.
So that timer was for vegan ones. So we're gonna turn off the thing for a vegan, and then for our meat ones,
Well, just add like, well, it's not boiled yet.
so let's say 5 more minutes.
Yeah, at least.
Okay, 6. Let's do 6.
I don't know why it's so slow.
So for our pot stickers, we are actually going to sort of steam / boil them first. So this helps lock in the moisture. So we're actually going to pour enough water to cover the pot stickers halfway. Let me grab some water. Okay. So now we're going to place the lid on. And so we're going to cook this for between 3 to 4 minutes. And so we'll transfer our attention back to our other ingredients. So just to check, so our pot stickers, we're gonna check them again at 428. So now we're going to pick up the boiled vegan dumplings that went in first. They're nice and juicy. Oh, nice and puffed up. Okay. And then, oh, this looks good. Our other batch of boiled dumplings, which I believe is the pork mushroom cabbage, has been back on rolling boil. So now that that has happened, my mom has put it back on. That's not little. We're gonna turn it lower, right? To like half.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we just want to finish cooking these for about 4 minutes. And again, we're just gonna nudge them to make sure that they are not sticking. So while we're waiting for our second batch of dumplings to boil and then our pot stickers to first cook, Mom, do you want to take us through how you make the dumpling sauce?
Okay.
We can make it over there. I think all of the sauce.
All my sauce.
Yeah, because I already took it over there. So let's make it over there. You'll see our sleepy cat is still sleeping. Hello, buddy. Ready to eat some dumplings? Okay, so on the range, our pot stickers and dumplings are boiling. So what are you putting in?
花椒.
Okay, so citron peppercorn powder. So if you have citron peppercorn oil, you can also use that. So after that, we have some sugar. And for those of you watching, I'll be giving sauce recipes out. So you don't need to like memorize it here. We're just going to be multitasking. So the salt is over here.
Oh, okay.
Wow, fancy Himalayan sea salt. Okay, so we have our citron peppercorn, our sugar, our salt. And so usually we put our dry ingredients in first, just in case we, pour too much. Okay, and then this is soy sauce.
Yeah.
So I would say that was probably about 2.5 tablespoons, just eyeballing it. My mom never uses measurements. And for those of you who have taken my classes before, you might recognize that this is the panda sauce. I mean, you can, let's put the other stuff in first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after soy sauce, we have our freshly made chili oil. So we like our spicy. So we're adding 2 heaping tablespoons, 3, okay, with sediment. This is gonna be very spicy.
Yeah, you can add the chopped spring onion.
Mhm.
That's it.
Yeah. So if I was making this, I would also add a little splash of sesame oil because I like it, and then some black vinegar. My dad, however, does not like black vinegar in his panda sauce, so we're gonna leave those 2
Or you
out for
can
now.
put some garlic, minced garlic.
And lastly, if you want, you can also put minced garlic.
Do you
Which,
want me to put in?
I'm okay for now.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's go back now to check on.
我再打着，害怕不熟。
Okay. So we have about a minute left on this.
这个时候如果是水不开了，你就火加大。
And so my mom wanted to mention that, if your water is no longer boiling for any reason, then you can turn the heat back on high because we want to keep the dumplings at a gentle boil before we scoop them up. Awesome. Almost done. And my Papa Panda makes an appearance and then immediately flees. Okay. All right. So let's see. Our pot stickers should almost be about ready. Okay. So we're going to continue cooking this until the water is almost evaporated. I indeed put a little bit too much in. So while we're waiting for that, let's go ahead and scoop up the dumplings that we
You better check.
were boiling. So my mom is grabbing a pair of chopsticks and also a plate to just double check.
Yeah, because by some reason today is boiled up very slow.
I think the pot is really big. So we're just going to slice one open to see if the meat is fully cooked through. That
Yeah.
looks good to me.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we can go ahead and finish this up. Ooh, Leslie, I can see your dumplings. They look great. Okay, and if you are hosting a dumpling party, oh my goodness, these dumplings go so quickly. So usually It's like you cook them as fast as people eat them. So we can put this maybe on this table over here. Hey, John. Did he go away again? Where did he go? So I will carry it over. You want to sniff the dumplings, buddy? Sniff the dumplings. I think he is put off by how hot they are. All right.
这个水库两个导致
Yeah, 可以，你帮我带它吗？
基本上说。
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna do a quick taste test and then we'll go back and where did the chopsticks? One second. All right, let's do a quick taste test. Dad, do you want to come taste test the dumpling? 过来搬好吗？就是你想一想. All right, so instead of me taste testing it, my dad will taste test. So this is, I think, 猪肉白菜蘑菇, so pork, cabbage, and mushroom. Okay, be careful.
Quick.
Any commentary?
Delicious.
Should we put some garlic in the sauce?
No.
Okay.
No, that's better.
So we'll put some garlic in the sauce. And then now that our boiled dumplings are ready, we're ready to finish off our pot stickers. So now that our water has evaporated, we are going to remove the lid and then we're going to shift the pot stickers around just to make sure that they're not sticking too much. So that's what my mom is doing right now. And you can also do this with your chopsticks as well. Okay, we want this on low. Okay, so now that we've shifted them around, we're gonna put about 2 more tablespoons of oil in. I'm gonna put it around the edge. Okay. And we're going to shift it around a little bit, just a little bit more to make sure that the pot stickers. Can you hold the camera real quick? I think next time we shouldn't use this pan, Mom, because it looks like the oil is gathering around the edges. The middle of the pan is a little humped up, which is why the ones in the middle are sticking.
So then you just move it to the.
That's okay. They can stay where they're at. I think you just need to maybe put a little bit more oil in. Just a little. I think making pot stickers in a flat pan or a cast iron is going to be good. Yeah, this one is really sticking. So even though they're called pot stickers, we don't actually want them to stick to the bottom of the pan. So now that we've moved it around, we want to put the lid back on just for a little bit. Where does the lid go? The lid disappeared. Okay, so and continue nudging it. So basically, once we find the lid, we're going to put the lid back on for about a minute or so until the oil starts to get more absorbed and the pot stickers start to get crispy. I do think we kind of overburdened our pot a little bit. So this would be easier if the pot stickers were not on top of each other. My mom is baffled. She's like, where's the lid? Okay, we're gonna put this on for another minute or so. So do you want to taste test your vegan dumplings, Mom? Yeah, let's do that. And while we're waiting, here is another cat cam. This is Mala. Hi, sweetie. That's my calico. Hi, baby. And then this is a very grumpy kitty, which is one of my parents' cats. She wants to go outside. It's raining, kitty. You can't go outside. And here is Howl again. Looking at, what are you looking at? Squirrels? I don't think there are any squirrels. Okay. All right. So we're almost done. And my mom is sampling her nice and juicy vegan dumplings. So before, my dad just drizzled sauce on the dumplings, or you can, give yourself a little dish and dip.
Good. Okay.
It's okay. Can you taste the mushrooms and fancy, the
Yeah.
vermicelli?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get a look in the inside to see what it looks like. I don't know if my camera is good enough. Okay. All right. And that should give us just enough time to finish up our pot stickers. Okay, so we're gonna check if they're done or not. Mom, can you hold the camera again? By flipping them to see if the bottom is crispy. I have a feeling that these are not done. So let's just check. Yeah, so you see the bottom, it's starting to firm up, but it's not golden brown. So we're gonna flip them over and give them another minute or so. So while we're waiting, I would love to see in the chat if folks have successfully created a batch of their own dumplings. Let me go check the chat. All right. I'm gonna put the camera back on dumpling cam. Oh my goodness. All right. Leslie, hoping mine don't explode. The homemade wrappers are tricksy. Yes, they are. But all right, let me turn my video back on so maybe people can see. All right. Oh, Leslie, I just saw your question before. If they dry out on the plate, so if your wrappers dry out on the plate a little bit, is that okay? Should I put a damp towel over it? Yeah, so a good trick is to put a damp paper towel over it to keep it from completely drying. And oh, it looks like Mike has successfully made a batch of dumplings. That is amazing. Let's see. Gonna add. Okay. All right, perfect. Oh, and Leslie, I mean, after they're filled. So I think usually homemade wrappers are pretty good at not exploding because they're actually a little thicker than store-bought wrappers. So I would say you're probably okay, but even veteran dumpling makers have made dumplings that have exploded, which is totally fine. It just means you have, some like meatballs in your dumpling batch, which is also delicious. All right. So we're going to come back to pot stickers. And for those of you watching, this is kind of one of my first attempts at making pot stickers. We almost always boil our dumplings. So I will also link another video of a professional making pot stickers. That should be better. Although I do see the bottoms starting to touch that. Oh, that looks great. Okay, so I don't know if you can see. Hold it a little closer. So now the bottoms of, can you turn the light off? Yeah. And now the bottoms of the pot stickers are starting to be golden brown, which is what we want. And so just to finish them off, we're going to turn them onto their sides for a little bit and continue frying it. And then we will be good to go. I'm gonna let it fry a little bit more. Yeah, I think if we either need a bigger pan or
I
not.
think they are ready. So
All right,
when you
so
eat,
you
lose it.
we will go with the Mama Panda verdict that the pot stickers are ready. Let me get John. John. All right. I was aroused. Look at this. Look at this face. Okay. So
Yes, the fried good stuff.
we will be making another attempt at this, which will look more photogenic, but I think that this will still be very delicious. It smells amazing already. Oh no, who is fighting back there? Do you want to? So while I'm putting the pot stickers on a plate, John, do you want to take another cat can down there?
Where is it? Can I see? Yeah. Look at this.
Kitty, are you hungry? Do you want some dumplings? So
Yes, with enemies at all sides.
there has been a very delicate truce between Hal and Kitty. Although, she has a couple of pounds on you, buddy, so you should.
Yes, but he dreams of being even more fat.
Where is Emmy? She hasn't appeared lately.
This one or with the other one?
Oh, okay, yeah. And then this is the other cat, a little Siamese.
Yes. Very, very friendly.
Okay, all right. Mom, when you're ready, can you bring it over and we'll have our third taste tester, which will be the raccoon. The raccoon. Okay.
Which chopsticks should I use?
You can use the one my mom is holding right now. Okay. So here are our pot stickers, which is the chicken, celery, and cabbage.
Are they meant to be dipped?
Yeah, you can either dip it or drizzle it. It's up to you.
Now, which one shall I leave this broken one first? Get it out of everyone's way.
You want this?
Oh.
Okay, my mom's like, spoon this, give it a mix. So I think the salty stuff is on the bottom. Commentary.
I suppose it's all right.
No, the actual commentary.
No, it's very delicious, very crispy.
All right, so that was our Let me bring it back. Oh my goodness. Let's see if I can. All right, everyone, I'm back. Okay, so that was our dumplings 3 ways. So we had our vegan boiled dumplings with cabbage, vermicelli, mushrooms, and there was more, but I forgot scallions, also in the recipe. And then we had our wax of life, pork, and mushroom and cabbage dumpling, which we also boiled, and my dad taste tested. And then the last dumpling slash pot sticker that we made was the chicken and celery and cabbage pot stickers, which my boyfriend, the raccoon, aka John Trey, tried. So let's see. It is now a little past our 3-hour mark, so it's already 4:45. So I will kind of let everyone finish up. For those of you who were able to kind of make a batch or 3, I would love, if you're comfortable with it, for you to turn your cameras on, and I would love to see some of your handiwork. Let me put this. Can you hold this real quick? And all right, so I'm gonna spotlight Leslie's. Oh, Leslie, that is a ton. Oh, you fold your dumplings the same way Mama Lau folds them. There are some like kind of dim sum shapes over there, and then some
That was
shapes
unintentional.
like we do over here. Awesome. Okay, let's see. Oh, Mike, let me spotlight you. That looks amazing. Woo! Amazing, amazing. Good job. All right, dumplings for days. And then Kristen, I see you are also. Oh, those look great. Those pot stickers look so much better than mine. They look amazing. All right, everyone. Great job. Great job. We are going to finish up making our dumplings over here, and we will sign off with another cat cam. So Hal says, goodbye, everyone. We will see you in the next class. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and keep an eye on your inbox for the replay and the recipe.
Should I leave?
Yes. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, everyone. Happy continued Lunar New Year month.
Should I click leave?
Yeah, you can click leave.
Okay.